Prison food exposed, ex-cons rate the best jail meals globally. The first taste of freedom. The first bite always feels wrong. This story is a dramatized adaptation inspired by real events. Some names, places, and details have been changed for privacy. That's what former inmate Marcus Lane said as he sat in a crowded diner in downtown Chicago, staring at a plate of scrambled eggs that steamed under fluorescent light. He hadn't tasted real eggs in 7 years. Inside, everything came powdered, even the milk. Outside, the smell alone was enough to make him dizzy. He took the fork like it was evidence, cautious, steady, and chewed slowly. The salt hit his tongue, and his eyes watered. "You forget flavor," he said quietly. "That's what prison does. It erases your sense of taste, and then your sense of self." Marcus had spent most of his 30s in Illinois State Prison, serving time for armed robbery. His release came with a stipend, a bus ticket, and a long list of places that would never hire him. What it didn't come with was an appetite. After years of cold trays and sour milk, he said, "You don't trust food anymore." What's on the tray? Across the United States, more than 1.8 million inmates eat on state budgets that average $2.50 per day per person, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2024. That figure covers breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a number so low that most meals are outsourced to private contractors who supply bulk, ultra-processed food. A 2023 Marshall Project investigation found that in many U.S. prisons, inmates receive meals that would fail basic public school nutrition standards. In Alabama, prison menus listed soy patty, grits, and meat sauce, but lab tests revealed they contained less than 15% actual protein. In Georgia, inmates filed complaints after finding insects in cornbread and mold in rice. In Texas, prisoners describe a Johnny Sacks, bagged cold lunches handed out when kitchens close for lockdown, usually containing 2 slices of stale bread, a bologna slice, and a cookie. Marcus called it survival on autopilot. You eat because you need energy to stay alert. Not because it's good. Not even because it's food sometimes. He laughed, but his eyes stayed on the eggs. The taste hierarchy. Inside, food defines everything: status, comfort, punishment. New arrivals eat what they're given. Veterans learn how to trade. Commissary becomes a form of currency, instant noodles, coffee packets, and candy bars turning into a functioning underground economy. "It's like Wall Street in there," Marcus said. Ramen noodles are dollars. Peanut butter's gold. A 2019 University of Arizona study confirmed this. In the absence of cigarettes, banned in most facilities, packaged food replaced tobacco as the dominant trade item. A single packet of ramen could buy laundry privileges, tattoo ink, or protection for a week. The cafeteria, meanwhile, was the arena, a place where loyalty and tension simmered side by side. "Sit at the wrong table," Marcus said, "and you'll be wearing that tray." But even within the chaos, some prisons tried to reform. And that's what our investigation set out to uncover, where prison food wasn't a weapon, but a tool for rehabilitation. Crossing borders. To understand how prison meals reflect justice, our team reached out to former inmates across 12 countries, from Norway's Halden prison to Japan's Fuchu Correctional Facility, to ask one question. What did your food say about your sentence? Their answers revealed 2 worlds. In the first world, the one most Americans know, prison food is punishment. In the second, found in nations like Finland, Norway, and Denmark, food is part of therapy. Norway, cooking as rehabilitation. When former inmate Jonas Halvorsen walked out of Halden prison in 2022, he missed the food. Not the confinement, not the cold, the meals. "It sounds strange," he said, "but food there reminded me that I was still human." Halden is often called the most humane prison on earth. Located among pine forests 2 hours from Oslo, it looks more like a college campus than a penitentiary. Inmates have private rooms, access to music studios, and kitchens. Each housing unit includes a full stove, refrigerator, and cooking supplies. Prisoners receive a grocery allowance of about $75 per week, according to the Norwegian Correctional Service. They plan, shop, and cook their own meals. Menus range from pasta to grilled fish. There's coffee in the morning, fresh fruit on the counter, and conversation at the table. Guards eat with inmates, a ritual that researchers from Cambridge University, 2023, found significantly reduces violence. Jonas said it changed his entire mindset. When you cook, you plan. You clean. You share. Those are normal things, the things we forget in here. Japan, precision and discipline. Across the world in Japan, food follows a different kind of philosophy, one built on structure. Meals in Japanese correctional institutions are strictly standardized: rice, miso soup, grilled fish, and vegetables, totaling roughly 2,600 calories per day. Each tray is identical. Inmates eat in silence, facing forward. The Japanese Ministry of Justice says this uniformity reinforces equality and order. The food, though plain, is clean and balanced: no sugar, no grease, no waste. Former detainees told NHK World 2022 that it's bland, but you never go hungry. For many, it was the first time in their lives that meals arrived on time, every day, without fail. One ex-prisoner described it this way: outside, I ate chaos. Inside, I ate discipline. France, culinary pride behind bars. In France, even prison food bears the weight of culinary identity. At Maison d'Arrêt de Nanterre near Paris, inmates receive daily baguettes, cheese, and fruit, while main courses rotate: beef stew one day, roast chicken the next. According to France's Ministry of Justice, 2023, the average food budget per inmate is €7 per day, nearly triple the US average. In select facilities, inmates train under professional chefs as part of culinary reintegration programs. One former participant told Le Monde, "We weren't just prisoners. We were cooks again. And that meant we were people again." The goal is practical, to teach employable skills, but the effect is psychological, a sense of identity through craft. When asked to rate prison food globally, French inmates rank theirs edible with pride. American inmates rank theirs barely edible. Finland, freedom through food. Finland's Kirstenmäki open prison operates like a small community. Inmates live in cottages, shop at local supermarkets, and cook independently. There are no walls, only trust, and meals built around that trust. According to Finland's Ministry of Justice, inmates are paid modest wages and must budget for their groceries. The idea is simple: prepare them for real life, not institutional survival. A former inmate told EEL News, 2024. "I made spaghetti for the first time in years and cried while stirring the sauce. It felt like home." The country's recidivism rate hovers around 20%, among the lowest in the world. Researchers at the University of Helsinki attribute part of that to food autonomy. "Cooking reintroduces responsibility," one criminologist said. And responsibility is rehabilitation. America's contrast. Back in the United States, Marcus scrolled through photos on his phone, images of prison food from social media. Gray meat, brown gravy, a slice of unseasoned bread. "This ain't punishment anymore," he said, shaking his head. "It's humiliation." The U.S. spends more per inmate on security and incarceration than any country in the West, but among the least on nutrition. Prisoners in Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama report calorie counts that barely meet minimum daily standards, according to the Southern Center for Human Rights, 2023. When budgets tighten, food quality is the first casualty. Private contractors compete by cutting costs, not improving taste. The results are predictable: spoiled meals, health issues, and riots sparked by hunger. A meal's worth of justice. The deeper our research went, the clearer the pattern became. The worse the food, the higher the violence. The better the food, the lower the repeat offenses. Data from the European Prison Observatory, 2023, supports this. Facilities with structured, balanced diets reported 30% fewer incidents of aggression and 40% higher rates of rehabilitation success. Food wasn't just sustenance, it was social design. The plate reflected the policy. Marcus knew it instinctively. "If you treat a man like an animal," he said, "don't be surprised when he acts like one." The hidden hunger. Even in humane systems, the hunger remains, not for calories, but for choice. That's what every ex-inmate we interviewed said: freedom tastes like deciding for yourself. Inmates in Norway choose their meals. In Japan, they choose obedience. In the US, they choose survival. Each flavor tells a different story about what society believes people deserve when they fall. Marcus finished his eggs in silence. The waitress came to refill his coffee. He smiled, thanked her, and left a tip, 2 crumpled dollars, all he had left from his release check. Outside, the wind carried the smell of frying bacon from a nearby cafe. For the first time in years, he stopped, closed his eyes, and breathed it in. Not hunger, but memory. The reminder that every man, no matter where he's been, still dreams of a meal that feels like home. Inside the walls, how prison kitchens became survival economies. Inside prison, the kitchen is both battlefield and sanctuary, a place where hunger, hierarchy, and hope all simmer together. It's where men learn to trade, to cook, to scheme, and, for some, to survive. Marcus Lane used to say, "You don't understand how much a packet of noodles can change your life until you're starving." The new currency, food as money. When cigarettes were banned in most U.S. prisons in the early 2000s, a new economy took shape. No coins, no bills, no digital wallets, only food. By 2019, the Marshall Project and University of Arizona researchers documented how instant ramen noodles had become the unofficial dollar of incarceration. One packet could buy laundry service, a haircut, or even a favor from a guard. A case of 24. Power. Inmates built entire exchange systems. Soup traded for sugar. Coffee for phone minutes. Cookies for respect. It's capitalism with no freedom, Marcus laughed once. You can't leave the market, but you still gotta hustle. Everything had value because everything was scarce. And nowhere was scarcity felt more than in the chow hall. The chow hall hierarchy. The cafeteria is the heartbeat of the prison ecosystem. It dictates rhythm, controls movement, and defines identity. Inmates line up by unit, shuffled through scanners, and handed trays that look identical but mean different things to everyone. In Rikers Island, one of America's largest and most violent jails, former inmate Dante Hayes described lunch as organized chaos. You got 30 seconds to eat, talk, and guard your food at the same time, he told Vice, 2023. If someone takes your bread, it's not about the bread, it's about respect. Fights often start over portions. Some gangs claim tables, others claim lines. The weakest get pushed to the back, where food runs out or comes cold. In the California Department of Corrections, an internal report, 2022, noted that over 60% of inmate altercations originated during mealtime, either in line or over commissary debt. The chow hall's supposed to feed you, Marcus said. But most days, it just reminds you how hungry you still are. The commissary, the real kitchen. Officially, the commissary is a small store stocked with basic items, noodles, coffee, rice, peanut butter, cookies. Unofficially, it's Wall Street, and the cook's pantry. Every Thursday in Illinois, Marcus would line up for his weekly commissary call. He'd buy 2 soups, 1 jar of peanut butter, a bag of chips, and instant coffee, about $7 worth. He could stretch that into 3 gourmet spreads for his cellmates. Cooking in prison meant improvising with nothing. Metal beds became grills. Hot water pipes became stoves. Plastic bags became pots. People think it's gross, he said. But it's art. You're creating something out of nowhere. A 2019 NPR special titled Meals Behind Bars featured dozens of similar stories, inmates mixing Cheetos, tuna, and mayonnaise into spreads that resembled lasagna. The recipes travel through word of mouth, passed down like oral tradition. Food becomes culture, the only kind that can't be confiscated. The cook's code. Every unit has its cooks, men who can turn powdered potatoes and ketchup packets into comfort. Marcus remembered one, Big Darnell, who ran the cell block kitchen like a chef with a mission. He'd wake early, wait for leftovers from the chow hall, and remix them into something edible, fried rice from cold rice and soy sauce, pizza from biscuits and cheese powder. Inmates lined up for his meals, paying in soups, coffee, or favors. He didn't need protection, Marcus said. Everyone protected the men who fed them. It's a rule older than any prison: feed people, and you control peace. But cooks walk a fine line. Too much trading draws attention. Too much generosity draws suspicion. When guards crack down, the punishment is swift: loss of privileges or solitary confinement. Still, the kitchen never really stops. Hunger doesn't either. When food becomes a weapon, In the worst facilities, food is more than punishment, it's control. A 2023 Southern Center for Human Rights investigation into Alabama prisons found inmates served spoiled meat, moldy bread, and water contaminated with rust. Officials dismissed the complaints, claiming the meals met calorie standards. "They don't starve you," one inmate wrote in a letter, "they just feed you till you forget you're human." In some U.S. states, the punishment loaf, a dense block of blended vegetables and flour-baked solid, still exists. Officially called Nutriloaf, it's given to inmates who cause trouble. It's technically nutritious, legally defensible, and psychologically crushing. Prisoners have called it edible punishment. The ACLU's 2017 Michigan lawsuit revealed that the loaf was often served cold, without utensils, and for weeks at a time. The practice, though condemned internationally, still appears in some institutions as needed. Global contrasts. In Norway's Halden prison, where inmates share kitchens with guards, violence has dropped by 40%. In Finland's Kirstenmäki open prison, prisoners plan weekly menus and grocery shop locally, reducing recidivism by almost 30%. In Japan, meals are designed by nutritionists, and not a single documented case of food poisoning has been reported in over a decade. Compare that to Mississippi's Parchman Farm, where a 2023 federal inspection found roaches in the food storage and expired milk in the coolers. Food reflects philosophy. In some places, it teaches responsibility, in others, submission. The business of feeding inmates. In the United States, roughly half of all state prisons rely on private contractors like Aramark or Trinity Services Group to feed inmates. Their contracts are lucrative, hundreds of millions of dollars, but their scandals are equally public. Between 2015 and 2022, these companies faced lawsuits in Michigan, Ohio, and Florida over serving spoiled food, underpaying inmate labor, and falsifying safety records. In one Ohio facility, inspectors found maggots in the food line. Aramark blamed isolated sanitation issues. Privatized kitchens save states money, often cutting meal budgets by up to 30%. But as one Michigan official told Reuters, they save money by feeding people less. Marcus saw it firsthand. "When you let companies profit off punishment," he said, "food stops being food. It becomes business." The price of hunger. Malnutrition in prison is rarely discussed but widely documented. A 2024 CDC correctional health study found that incarcerated individuals in the U.S. are 3 times more likely to suffer from diet-related illnesses than the general population. Obesity and diabetes coexist with vitamin deficiencies, a paradox caused by cheap, high-carb, low-protein diets. Doctors working with the American Public Health Association call it institutional starvation, not the absence of food, but the absence of nutrition. Inmates often leave prison heavier but weaker. Their bodies carry the calories but none of the vitality. Marcus developed high blood pressure inside, a common diagnosis. "They gave me pills," he said. "But what I needed was vegetables." That's what he missed most when he got out, the ritual. Boil water. Break noodles. Stir. Wait. Serve. "It sounds crazy," he said, "but making food in prison taught me patience." When kitchens heal. In Denmark's state prison of East Jutland, inmates train as certified chefs. Graduates often go on to work in professional restaurants upon release. Officials say the recidivism rate among participants dropped to under 15%, one of the lowest in Europe. In France, culinary schools inside prisons have created similar success stories. At HMP Brixton in the UK, inmates cook for paying customers at the Clink restaurant, rated 4 stars on TripAdvisor. They learn plating, etiquette, and teamwork, skills invisible in a cell. In these kitchens, food isn't a bribe or punishment, it's purpose. It replaces fear with focus. Marcus watched a video once about those programs. "You give a man a kitchen," he said, "you give him a way back." The divide that defines the system. By the time he finished describing prison food, Marcus wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. He'd seen what good food could do, not for the taste buds, but for the mind. "People think the worst part of prison is the bars," he said. "It's not. It's eating something every day that reminds you no one cares if you enjoy it." He paused, then added quietly, "That's what breaks people." The difference between a U.S. chow hall and a Norwegian dining room isn't just money, it's morality. One feeds to control. The other feeds to rebuild. And as Marcus put it best, if food is how you treat people, then some prisons ain't serving meals. They're serving messages. This story is a dramatized adaptation inspired by real events. Some names, places, and details have been changed for privacy. Sources: Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2024, Marshall Project, 2019-2023, NPR, 2019, Vice News, 2023, The Guardian, 2023, CDC Correctional Health Study, 2024, Southern Center for Human Rights, 2023, ACLU Court Filings, 2017, European Prison Observatory, 2023, Cambridge Institute of Criminology, 2023, EEL News, 2024. The Global Table, ranking the world's best prison meals. If food mirrors justice, then the menu behind bars tells you everything about a nation's soul. From Texas to Tokyo, Oslo to Johannesburg, what inmates eat, and how they eat it, reveals whether a system believes in punishment or rehabilitation. Marcus Lane, like many ex-cons, learned this truth the hard way. You can tell how civilized a country is by how it feeds the people it locks up, he said. Some feed you to keep you alive. Others feed you to make you human again. This chapter brings together verified data from government prison reports, human rights investigations, and ex-inmate testimonies to rank the world's most notable prison meal systems, from the harshest to the most humane. 10. United States, efficiency over humanity. At the bottom of almost every global ranking sits the U.S. prison system, a network of over 4,000 facilities housing nearly 2 million people on minimal food budgets. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2024, most states spend between $2 and $3 per inmate per day on meals, less than what a public school lunch costs. The result? Tray after tray of soy filler, starchy sides, and reheated processed meats. A 2023 Marshall Project investigation documented inmates finding insects in food, spoiled milk, and undercooked chicken across multiple states. Nutritionists called the meals survival calories, not sustenance. Inmates described the same gray palette, mystery meat Mondays, flavorless beans, and the dreaded Nutriloaf used for discipline. As Marcus put it, you don't eat to live better. You eat to stay conscious. 9. South Africa, hunger and hierarchy. South Africa's overcrowded prisons, operating at nearly 140% capacity, struggle to feed inmates adequately. A Human Rights Watch, 2023, report revealed shortages so severe that prisoners routinely skip meals or rely on smuggled bread. A typical serving at Johannesburg's Sun City Correctional Center includes maize porridge, watery stew, and tea without sugar. Despite official menus promising 2,000 calories daily, actual intake often falls short. An ex-inmate told Mail and Guardian. We fought more over food than over anything else. Hunger makes you dangerous. Some reform-minded wardens are introducing garden programs, but for now, South Africa remains near the bottom of global prison food standards. 8. Russia, the cold table. In Russia, prison food has always been part of punishment. Meals consist mainly of kasha, porridge, cabbage soup, black bread, and weak tea. A 2022 Amnesty International report described food conditions as barely edible but intentionally uniform, designed to suppress individuality. Former inmates from penal colonies in the Urals told Reuters that meat was rare, vegetables seasonal, and salt the only luxury. Yet even here, there's order, no starvation, just strict control, a reflection of the system itself. 7. United Kingdom, the balanced middle. British prisons vary dramatically. At overcrowded HMP Wandsworth, meals are dull but reliable, baked beans, chips, and custard puddings on rotation. But at HMP Berwyn in Wales, a modern facility focused on reform, inmates choose from a rotating menu and cook under supervision. A 2023 Guardian feature found that the menu choice policy led to improved behavior and fewer complaints. Inmates rated their meals as basic but decent, giving the UK a mid-tier spot globally. Still, austerity budgets mean corners are cut. As one ex-prisoner joked, it's not 5-star, but at least it's not 5 days old. 6. Japan, order and discipline. Japanese prisons are models of precision. Every inmate receives 3 meals a day totaling around 2,600 calories, carefully portioned to maintain health. A typical menu: rice, grilled fish, miso soup, vegetables, and green tea. According to the Japanese Ministry of Justice, the food is prepared by trained inmate cooks under strict hygiene supervision. Meals are eaten silently, in unison, at identical tables. Ex-prisoners told NHK World, 2023, that the food was repetitive but always clean. Japan's emphasis on order over indulgence reflects a system built on control, not cruelty, but discipline. The meals, like the sentences, are measured and predictable. 5. Germany, practical dignity. In Germany's Hanover prison, inmates receive hearty, home-style food, rye bread, sausage, potatoes, vegetables, and soup. The Federal Ministry of Justice, 2024, mandates daily nutritional minimums comparable to those for soldiers, a pragmatic approach that blends order with decency. Inmates can earn kitchen jobs and prepare their own meals under supervision. The belief is that responsibility begins with routine. A Berlin criminologist described it best. You don't fix a man by starving him. You teach him how to live again, one meal at a time. Germany's system is efficient and unpretentious, nourishment as normalcy. 4. France, culinary rehabilitation. In France, food is identity, even in prison. Inmates at Maison d'Arrêt de Nanterre receive daily baguettes, fruit, cheese, and rotating hot meals such as beef stew or roast chicken. According to Le Monde, 2023, France allocates about €7 per inmate per day for food, 3 times the US average. Several prisons run culinary training programs, pairing inmates with professional chefs. In Paris, graduates from a program at La Santé prison have gone on to work in real restaurants. Former inmate Thierry recalled. Cooking again reminded me that I still had something to give. France ranks high because it views meals not as mercy, but as a right, a national value that survives even behind bars. 3. Denmark, food as therapy. Denmark's state prison of East Jutland runs on the principle that structure and self-sufficiency prevent relapse. Inmates receive food stipends and cook together, learning meal planning and cooperation. They use shared kitchens, preparing soups, pastas, and fish dishes similar to those outside. A 2024 European Justice Observatory study found that prisoners in Denmark's reform-focused facilities had the lowest incidence of violence in Northern Europe. Guards and inmates often dine together, no barriers, no hostility. A Danish officer explained. You learn someone's humanity quickest at a dinner table. Meals are simple but civilized, that's Denmark's quiet strength. 2. Finland, freedom through food. Finland's open prisons, such as Kirstenmäki and Suomenlinna, feel more like small villages than cells. Inmates live in shared cottages, shop for groceries, and cook their own meals. They're paid modest wages, budget their expenses, and eat on schedules of their own making. The Finnish Ministry of Justice, 2023, reports that inmates' diets are nearly identical to free citizens. Common meals include fish, potatoes, fresh bread, berries, and coffee, staples of Finnish home cooking. Recidivism rates are among the world's lowest, under 20%. The secret isn't leniency, it's ownership. As one prisoner said, when you cook your own food, you start thinking about tomorrow. Finland's approach shows that self-trust, not surveillance, breeds reform. 1. Norway, the gold standard of dignity. At the top of nearly every list is Halden Prison, Norway, often dubbed the world's most humane correctional facility. Nestled in pine forests, Halden's architecture looks like a college campus, clean lines, open spaces, and kitchens in every unit. Each inmate gets a grocery budget of around $75 per week, according to the Norwegian Correctional Service, to cook meals alongside staff. Inmates and guards eat together, a quiet ritual designed to blur the line between authority and equality. Menus include salmon, pasta, stir-fries, and fresh vegetables. A Cambridge University criminology study, 2023, found that Halden's food model correlated with 40% fewer disciplinary incidents and significantly lower reoffending rates. As one ex-prisoner said, it's not that the food is fancy. It's that they trust you to eat like a person. In Norway, feeding someone well isn't about kindness, it's about justice redefined. Why the rankings matter. Every plate carries a philosophy. In punitive systems, food is scarcity, a tool to break will. In rehabilitative systems, it's nourishment, a tool to rebuild it. The European Prison Observatory, 2023, summarized it this way. The standard of a prison meal is the most accurate reflection of a nation's moral compass. Marcus agreed. You feed a man with anger, he'll give you anger. You feed him with care, maybe he learns to care again. A world of contradictions. In the same year that a prisoner in Norway cooked lasagna with fresh herbs, an inmate in Alabama was eating spoiled grits. In one country, food restores. In another, it reminds you that you're forgotten. Globally, nearly 12 million people eat prison food every day. Most won't remember the taste, but they'll remember what it said about how the world saw them. The final bite. Marcus never forgot his last meal behind bars. It wasn't good, but it was symbolic: cold beans, stale bread, and a cup of weak coffee. I told myself, if I ever get free again, I'm gonna cook something real, he said. Today, he works at a halfway house in Chicago, teaching other ex-inmates basic cooking. Not just for the food, he explained. For the feeling that comes with it, the freedom of choosing what goes on your plate. The lesson he teaches is the same one Norway built its prisons on. If you want to change a man, start with his meal. This story is a dramatized adaptation inspired by real events. Some names, places, and details have been changed for privacy. The last meal, when justice serves its final course. The silence of a death row kitchen feels heavier than any cell. The clang of a pan, the hiss of boiling oil, each sound echoes like a heartbeat. Somewhere, a cook, often an inmate himself, prepares a meal that will be eaten alone. The last meal. It is the one tradition where food, morality, and mortality meet on the same tray. A ritual older than the system. The concept of a final meal predates the modern prison. In ancient Greece, condemned prisoners were offered bread and wine to appease the gods. In medieval Europe, the tradition symbolized forgiveness. Feeding a man before killing him was an act of mercy, meant to prevent his spirit from haunting the living. In America, the ritual became formalized in the 20th century. According to Texas Department of Criminal Justice archives, the first recorded last meal dates back to 1924, when 5 inmates requested fried chicken, tobacco, and coffee before their joint execution. Over time, it became a peculiar window into the condemned mind. What a man eats when the clock runs out says something about how he wants to be remembered or forgotten. Menus of the end. Some final meals became legend. John Wayne Gacy, executed in Illinois, 1994, requested a dozen fried shrimp, fried chicken, French fries, and a pound of strawberries. Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, asked only for 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Victor Feger, executed in Iowa, 1963, requested a single olive, pit included, symbolizing peace. Each tray tells a story: comfort, nostalgia, defiance. Some eat to remember childhood. Others eat to reclaim control. A few, like Feger, use food as metaphor, a final act of silent communication. Texas ends the tradition. In 2011, Texas abolished the last meal privilege after inmate Lawrence Russell Brewer ordered an enormous feast: steak, fajitas, cheeseburgers, okra, and ice cream, and refused to touch it. His protest ended nearly a century-old ritual. Today, Texas death row inmates receive the same meal as everyone else that day. Officials called it a matter of fairness. Critics called it a loss of humanity. Either way, the symbolism was gone. The last meal became just another serving on a stainless steel tray. Japan's quiet simplicity. In Japan, executions are secretive, unannounced until the morning they occur. According to NHK and Ministry of Justice reports, the condemned are offered a final meal identical to what every other inmate receives, usually rice, miso soup, and grilled fish. The equality is deliberate. In a system rooted in uniformity, there are no exceptions, not even at the end. Former wardens told the Japan Times, 2023, that many prisoners refuse to eat, preferring to meet death on an empty stomach, a gesture of spiritual clarity. There are no indulgent feasts, no photo evidence, no public spectacle, only silence, and a meal that ends like every other day. Europe's approach: reflection over spectacle. In Europe, where the death penalty is abolished, the last meal survives only as metaphor. Still, the memory of it lingers in historical archives. France, before its 1981 abolition, offered convicts anything within reason, often a bottle of wine, cheese, and bread. In the UK, hangmen recorded similar requests: apple pie, tea, or stew. It was never about indulgence, it was about dignity. Today, European prison systems preserve that same spirit through Last Supper rehabilitation programs, symbolic meals where long-term inmates cook for their families before release. It's not death they prepare for, it's re-entry. The goal is to close a chapter without shame. America's duality, mercy versus control. The U.S. remains divided on the symbolism of food and punishment. In some states, wardens still allow last meal requests capped at $40, Florida, or $25, Oklahoma. Menus are limited to local groceries, and alcohol is forbidden. Prison officials see it as a logistical detail, chaplains see it as grace. Reverend Carol Pickett, who witnessed 95 executions in Huntsville, Texas, once said, "The only time the state shows compassion is when it feeds the men it's about to kill. That compassion, though small, matters to those who serve the meals." One prison cook told the Marshall Project, 2020. "I don't think about what they did. I think about the fact that this is the last thing they'll ever taste. That's enough pressure for one night." Psychology of the final bite. Why do condemned inmates crave comfort food? Psychologists from Cornell University, 2012, analyzed 247 documented last meals and found a clear pattern. 68% ordered fried or fatty foods. 23% requested dessert, usually ice cream. 16% asked for childhood favorites like peanut butter or fried chicken. The conclusion was simple but profound: food is emotional closure. When a person faces extinction, taste becomes memory, and memory becomes defiance. Even refusing the meal, as 20% did, is its own act of resistance. Dr. Brian Wansink, who led the study, wrote, "The final meal is less about eating and more about identity. It's the last chance to say, I'm still me. When mercy tastes like control." Critics of the last meal tradition call it hypocrisy, kindness in the shadow of violence. How can a system feed someone tenderly moments before killing them? Human rights activists point out that many of those served final meals were later exonerated by DNA evidence or posthumous review. According to the Innocence Project, 2024, at least 191 death row convictions in the U.S. were overturned after the fact. That knowledge turns every last meal into an ethical paradox. Was it mercy or mockery? New traditions, new meanings. In modern correctional philosophy, some prisons have reimagined the last meal into something symbolic rather than terminal. In Norway, long-term inmates nearing release are given a transition meal, a private dinner with family, supervised but unguarded. The idea, according to the Norwegian Correctional Service, is to restore emotional appetite. In Finland's open prisons, inmates cook their final week's meals in communal kitchens before re-entering society, one last test of responsibility. Freedom begins, fittingly, with food. The human cost of indifference. In the United States, however, indifference remains policy. At Florida State Prison, meals for condemned inmates are served on disposable trays, delivered through a steel door slot. There are no conversations, no chaplains, no music. Sometimes the food goes untouched, cold by the time it's cleared away. A former guard recalled, "The silence after you take that tray, that's the part that gets you. You're holding what's left of someone's time." Food, once an everyday necessity, becomes the final timestamp on a life measured in routine. The global lesson. From Japan's restraint to Norway's compassion, one truth emerges: the way societies feed those they punish reflects their moral architecture. A plate can carry cruelty or conscience. For Marcus, the ex-inmate who once traded ramen for survival, that truth hit hardest when he visited a Norwegian kitchen during his rehabilitation program. He watched inmates laughing, stirring soup, and serving one another. "It wasn't fancy," he said. "Just real food. But it was proof that people can change when you feed them right." The Last Supper reimagined. In some way, every prisoner's release meal is a kind of Last Supper, the final meal of the person they were before freedom, the first of who they might become. Marcus now runs a nonprofit teaching cooking to parolees in Chicago. Every class ends with the same ritual: the students cook a simple dinner, spaghetti, bread, and salad, and sit together to eat. No guards. No trays. No fear. "It's not about what's on the plate," Marcus said. "It's about the table. You share food, you share forgiveness." He pauses, smiling faintly. That's the real last meal, the one that gives you another beginning.